Jira was not born into an agile-based project management
No,
tool either,
it
right?
was an issue tracking tool.
Yeah, it was an issue tracking tool, but then there was an acquisition,
Mhm.
and then an evolution happened, and then we have Jira that we know today.
Mhm.
But some of these other tools like GitLab, GitHub, they're almost doing it backwards, right? Because they're trying to fit a market that already exists, and they're trying
Yeah.
to adapt their tool that their specialty in GitLab is not planning, right? It's
No,
more on the
no.
build side.
Yeah, just like Atlassian will tell you that they have something to fix the entire infinity loop here. So would GitLab and GitHub.
Yeah.
But they started from the version control aspect and branched out. And one of the first things they both branched into was project management and
Yeah.
issue tracking,
And
but more so on the issue tracking part of that statement.
Right, because you're gonna see this theme throughout the loop, because even if we were to catch all the way to the end and we're in continuous feedback, an area really good within like ServiceNow, right? That's a ticketing system. Well, it now has an agile based planning component. Looks
Yeah.
crappy as hell, but it's there nonetheless.
So yeah, I won't beat up on our ServiceNow friends that much, but yes, it's yeah.
I think
It's
ServiceNow is one of those tools that is so incredibly powerful. They just need to like bring that UI a little bit up to the 21st century.
yeah.
Like
So,
if it had a cleaner UI, I'd be all over it. But it feels like I'm in the 1990s tool still.
it does, and another issue, and I don't want to get into the bashing ServiceNow here, but let's start bashing ServiceNow. The it does too much, and yeah, the UI is clunky. But if they were to modernize their UI at the same time segmenting out certain functions, so you have a separate area to go to, it wouldn't seem so overwhelming when you're using ServiceNow.
But that's an interesting theme that's occurring, right? Because when we look at all these other tools, that's essentially what they're doing, right? GitLab adding a planning feature is adding fat to their tool, right? We see that with ServiceNow, as I mentioned, they have an agile portion. Aha is a product management ideation tool that can now do planning, right?
Yeah.
There's like a Jira-like component to
Well, that's a
Aha.
natural evolution for them.
Right.
That's
But Apple, the funny thing is that Apple did this in the 2000s with iTunes. And then look at where they ended up with this like monolithic, huge application that ultimately gets broken up into so many different tools. Because now we have Apple TV in one section, Apple Music, podcast, right? They just segregated it out. So I just like how history, it's an infinite loop in itself.
and Apple wasn't the first one to do that. We saw that with CA in the 90s, and IBM in the later in the later 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, because IBM tried to do RTC was kind of that concept, no? RTC was like a one platform to
RTC, yeah, RTC, yeah, RTC was definitely an approach to that. Or they called it the Jazz platform, and RTC was probably the more famous of the tools in the Jazz platform. But it was also a platform I did not follow. I did not. I saw that, and back then I was a ClearCase and ClearQuest admin, and I did not like the direction RTC was taking. I thought the initial versions of it were too complex and too fragile at the same time, making it not really a good. Also, the only customers they had were the ones that gave it away for free. So I said, "Oh, this is not really a direction I want to follow," and ultimately it didn't last long. The majority of customers that went that way either continued on with the other legacy tools like ClearCase and ClearQuest, or they were early adopters of Jira or Git based systems.
Yeah.
But,
So that's funny. But just to kind of put a bow on the planning phase, right? We also have other tools that are maybe lesser known, like Basecamp is one. Kanbanize is another one. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
Did you
Kanbanize.
mention Asana already. Yeah.
Yeah. Trello tries to compete in this space.
Uh-huh.
I don't know why, but they do.
I think Trello can compete here as long as you're not um, a mature organization. So if you have to worry about tracing requirements or tracing the planning, mapping things out, Trello's probably not the right tool.
Yeah.
You just need a to-do list to assign things to engineers. Trello's perfect for that. But if I have to worry about costs and roll-ups and
Planning.
planning, all the hard parts of planning, that's not what Trello's geared for.
Right. And they just launched the rebrand of themselves too, by the way, in case you missed it.
Oh, did they? I did not know that.
Yeah, they just came out, I think within the last day or two.
Is it Jello now instead of Trello?
No, it's still Trello, but they're really, really doubling down on the personal task tracking, if you will.
Okay, yeah, because that's perfect for Trello.
Yeah.
It really helps you, really refine what you need to do as an engineer, and and not necessarily worry about the higher level Jira tasks.
So I gotta ask, what's your least favorite planning tool that you've had to use?
Version 1.
Version 1, okay.
I absolutely, I don't necessarily hate it, but I would rather use anything other than version 1.
Yeah. I'll tell you my least favorite one's called Shortcut. Avoid that thing like the plague.
I don't know if I've played with Shortcut before.
Don't waste your time.
Okay.
Shortcut,
so you immediately throw a graphic up about it, huh?
Yeah, no, Shortcut, if you ever were thinking or considering sponsoring us, just don't. I will never use you ever again.
So why do you hate Shortcut so much?
The organization of it, like the workflows and the boards, like the boards are not dependent on a project. Like you adapt work into a team, and then the team adapts a workflow / board.
So this sounds like a tool that was created specifically because this one group did things this way. And so they're like, hey, we love how we just implemented this, so let's create a product and push it out there. But they didn't really have any foresight.
They did not.
Yeah, what other teams might want to change it to, or does this really work for everybody?
Yeah, absolutely not. And then like epics and stories are together, except when you try to export the data, the stories are here, and then they have an identifier that tells you who the epic is. But of course, you just have a number, so then you have to go grab from a different database
find
epic and match the number, and then go grab the name, which is in a different database. To get the final epic name. So I have to do 3 table calls, API calls, to just grab one freaking story in its entire hierarchy. It's like, why? So never again. Never again.
Well, here's a side story on Jira. So I had a recent customer ask me to review their Jira setup, and they had a pretty decent hierarchy. They're using structure. So they had the epics, capabilities, features, stories, tasks, subtasks, but every single work item type, I guess we need to call them, had an epic link, and every subject had the epic number in it, regardless if it was a story epic, feature, whatever. And so it was just ridiculous. I suggested getting rid of the epic link on everything. And we can't possibly do that. Okay, well, why don't we remove the epic name in the the subject line, or what's it called, the summary?
Summary, yeah.
So every summary started with epic number, and then what the actual work item summary was. And I'm like, okay, let's remove it from the summary, because you have the epic link right there. Oh, no, we can't do that. Okay, but then if you look at structure, you can see how this all flows down.
Yeah, how they're connected.
So yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, one day we're gonna have to do an episode of like horror story.
Yeah. Well, this was an interesting thing. It may or may not actually be a horror story, but
we'll see.